Hello everyone, my name is Enrique Cardona and welcome to another episode of my podcast. Today I'm talking about the new movie that came out from the Marvel Studios called Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Doctor Strange in media is not well known to many comic book fans as well as Marvel fans, since they only know about the big ones like Spider-Man, Iron Man and Captain America. But thankfully, the movie that came out in 2016 of Doctor Strange helped a lot of people to realize how much of the character is and what his backstory as well as his powers are. So basically, to give you the little exposition I can give you about Doctor Strange is that he used to be a surgeon called Stephen Strange who lost his hands after an accident, goes to Tibet and meets the Ancient One, which she teaches him to be a sorcerer, a master of mystical arts, as well as realizing about things like the multiverse and how he can control magic and make mirror worlds and everything else. The movie came out in 2016 and it was a huge success, as it opened the door about multiversal magic as well as other threats that can come out other than just being in space. Now, Doctor Strange has made a lot of appearances since then in the MCU. Thor Ragnarok, the Infinity War and Endgame movies. He made an appearance recently in Spider-Man. And now he has his movie in 2022. And it's all about the multiverse, and it's all about opening the door to other worlds that are beyond our comprehension. As Stephen Strange says it, the multiverse is a concept that which we don't know frankly little, which is scary for a lot of people since you don't know what it's all about. Now, I already explained in my Loki review that the multiverse is basically another timeline. In fact, in many respects, this fills in like a lot of the things that the Loki, What If, and WandaVision did in the past. Not to mention, as I said before, since I also did the review for WandaVision, is that Wanda is basically opening the door for the multiverse as well, as she's using chaos power as the Scarlet Witch. And that opens the door to a lot of huge trouble. Now, with this and the recent Spider-Man No Way Home that came out in theaters last year in December, now we got this movie and we are about to find out what it's all about. So without further ado, let's get to the plot. After years of defending the multiverse as well as his own world from other threats, Thanos and other multiversal monsters, now we see Doctor Strange comfortable in his work as a sorcerer. Not Sorcerer Supreme, since now Wong took that mantle after being blipped away, but now Stephen Strange has to live in a world in which not only his former girlfriend, the night nurse, Christine Palmer, is now getting married, but now he has to confront the fact that he's probably not happy as much as he likes to think. But a new threat comes across as he comes across a new girl called Chavez, in which she desperately needs his help in order to not only go back home, but also stop the bigger threat that is chasing her. So Doctor Strange and Wong are embarking themselves into an adventure in which they have to face this evil, which is more than a scene. I'll get into that when I talk to the characters. But now Stephen Strange has to confront not only all the multiversal threats as well as all the multiversal characters, but also his own self. And what does he do to stop this threat? And with characters like the Scarlet Witch and Chavez being involved, you don't know exactly what Pandora's box is opening here. And it's only going to get bigger and bigger with the years to come with this multiversal war. There are a lot of characters in this movie, not just the side characters, but a lot of cameos. However, I'm not going to spoil anything in this movie, as I want to do this spoiler free, and I'm just going to talk about the 4 main characters that are in this movie. Now, let's start with the one that was introduced in this movie, which is Chavez, who is played by, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, Xochitl Gomez. Xochitl Gomez, yeah. I think I pronounced that name well. But yeah, she's a new girl who has the powers to open in dimensions, but not by choice. She does that out of fear or by stressful situations. Now, she doesn't know how she has this power. Only thing that she knows is that her mother's, yes, America Chavez is lesbian and her mother's as well. So when her mothers were caught by America's feared portals in which open another dimension to her, they got sucked out as well as her, and ever since then she has lived through other dimensions. And she doesn't know what to do and why she's being chased by, but the only thing that she knows is that she wants to go back home and regain her mother's, but she doesn't know how, and she only wants is to be left alone. It's kind of like the mutants, but in many respects is a little bit different. We don't know exactly the kind of world that America comes from, but the only thing that she knows, that we know about her, is that she's afraid and she's scared, and the only thing she knows for her whole life is that she runs. Only thing that she can do is run. And with the help of Doctor Strange, she might gain a little bit of a confidence on herself, as well as the power to defeat this great evil. So she's doing a lot of her best to, fight and to gain confidence, as well as the ability to open portals by choice. And I have to admit, even though she doesn't have like a big massive, how can I say this? Like that big massive final fight, or that she doesn't regain her powers back, or her parents or her mothers, she at least is gaining the confidence to not only be a confident person, but also a confident hero in the future. And with the help of Doctor Strange, she's gaining a little bit more of that confidence. Next we got Wong, everybody's favorite character, of course. Wong doesn't do much in this movie, but he still believes that he can fix the situation. And he's still appearing and gaining the confidence of other people, and he's still fighting back as the Sorcerer Supreme, and he's still doing everything in his power to maintain balance in the worlds as well as the multiverse. And I'm glad to know that Benedict Wong is pretty much becoming more synonymous with the character Doctor Strange and Wong in this movie, just like Benedict Cumberbatch. And I like that he's still badass and kicks a lot of ass in this movie, like as he should, because he's actually hilarious and badass. Now let's talk about the character that has a lot of many people debating whether the character progression in this movie is either good or bad, and that is of course the Scarlet Witch, which is played by Elizabeth Olsen. Now, a lot of people are either gonna love or they're gonna hate the characterization of the Scarlet Witch in this movie. Now, we all know the story of the Scarlet Witch for years until WandaVision, and we learn from there that not only construct something called the Hex to create her own world, but also bring back the people that she loves, like Vision and her brother. Actually, that was more like Agatha's manipulation, but that's only because she was afraid of the Scarlet Witch. And the more important thing that she created on the Hex on that show was basically her sons, Billy and Tommy. And after they disappear with the Hex, Wanda is being basically all alone. Except not really. We later find out that when Strange is trying to recruit Wanda in order to help him to deal with this multiversal problem, well, there's something else. It's actually something that many people will probably be upset, but that is because Wanda is the one who is chasing after America Chavez. And the monsters like Gargantos and that weird mummy monster from the beginning of the movie was basically all her, because ever since the Hex and WandaVision happened, the only thing that she has been obsessed with is gaining her children back. And because she has the Dark Hole book, which is basically Sam Raimi saying that it's basically the Book of the Dead, the Necronomicon of this movie, is basically she's using that book about bringing her children back, but she doesn't know how, and she believes that America is the key for regaining her children that never existed under her world, but exists in other worlds. After all, the multiverse is a door for everything and everyone. So, meaning that Billy and Tommy are still alive there. But she doesn't know how to get to it. And the dark hole and the monsters she's gaining is making her more insane and more frantic. Like, she is unstoppable as the Scarlet Witch, and she's using that to regain her children. And if there's something I learned that is more powerful than any Infinity Stone, is the love of my mother, because she's willing to go through anyone to get her revenge. She doesn't care about killing people, as the dark hole took a toll on her, making her emotions of grief and resentment and anger more powerful. Now, a lot of people will say that this is something that they didn't want to see, because Wanda throughout the entire MCU run has been nothing more than a tragic character. After all, she lost her parents due to the war in Sokovia, she lost her brother to Ultron, she lost her love of her life, Vision, to Thanos, and now that she has the dark hole in her hands, she feels like this is something that she needs to do, because she believes that it's not fair what happened to her. And while I normally don't agree with characters like going evil, I honestly think that this was the direction that Wanda was going through, because despite helping out on the things like Avengers Endgame, as well as defeating Ultron and defeating Agatha, I don't think she was fully a hero, because if anything we learn from her is that she's very tragic. She lived a very tragic life in Sokovia, and even though she gained a family in the Avengers and Vision, she didn't have that whole thing that she needed. Like, she had a little bit with the Hex and her children Billy and Tommy, but after she had to make that disappear, she was empty again. She felt like empty in her soul, and the dark hole only fed on that anger and that resentment and that depression even further. So yeah, I'm not surprised that Wanda is the villain in this movie. So yeah, I will admit that I would have done something different, but and then again, I saw that was the only outcome. And plus, Elizabeth Olsen playing this character felt a lot believable. You felt the resentment and the insanity that comes through her, and she's willing to break any rules to getting what she wants. And that's something scary. Now we got to the main character of this movie, which is of course Stephen Strange, aka Doctor Strange, played by none other than Benedict Cumberbatch. Now, I'll say this. Next to Spider-Man, I'll say that Doctor Strange has become my favorite character of all time. Because knowing that everything that he had to go through in the Avengers, his own movie, and now in Spider-Man No Way Home and in this movie, I can see why has adopted the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme. Even though it belongs to Wong, he probably has more of a creativity when it comes to resolving problems. You see, in this movie, Doctor Strange goes to the art of trying to be happy and fulfilling his duties as defender of the entire Earth. And the good thing about this movie is that we're presented with the opportunity to see a little bit more of how Strange operates. He not only conjures more magic and sorcery with his hands as well as with his spells, but we also learn that he also gained more knowledge about the multiverse and knowing the choices that he has to make in order to fulfill the larger goal of protecting the multiverse. Because as we saw in Spider-Man No Way Home, the multiverse is very dangerous. And in the grand cosmos of the multiverse, he has to do whatever he has to do in order to protect it. Protect the people that he loves, as well as the people that live in the multiverse. And gaining a little bit more of the knowledge of Strange protecting everything and everyone is something that it really reeks of inspiration, because he's willing to just break just as many rules as Wanda, but he's willing to serve the larger goal of protecting the innocent. And that's the ultimate thing about a doctor like him. The doctor's goal is to protect people and to save lives and to see another way. And that is what Strange is all about. He makes the hardest decisions in order to protect the entire world. And that's something that, even though it takes a hole in his personal life, it helps a lot of people. He's probably just as selfish as Spider-Man. He's willing to protect the entire cosmos, even though he has to sacrifice his own happiness. And that is something that I learned a lot more throughout the entire run of the MCU of Doctor Strange. And Benedict Cumberbatch really complements his character a lot, because he brings the confidence of a doctor, but also the relatability of a man who is willing to sacrifice his own happiness, even though he's not happy with himself or with his life or the things that he has gained. And that is something that I immensely relate to the most, because Strange is a doctor who really is willing to risk anything in order to protect people. Unlike Wanda, who's just doing this for her own selfish reasons, it is Strange who is willing to put aside those selfish thoughts and reasons in order to serve the larger goal. And Benedict Cumberbatch really complements this character a lot. It brings the funny, it brings the charming, and it brings the seriousness that this character really deserves. He played it a lot in his own movie and in the Infinity War movies, as well as in What If. We learn what happens when Strange serves his own selfish goals. It doesn't end well, but in this movie, he's willing to take risks. And seeing other mirrors of himself from other dimensions make him realize of the hard decisions he has to make. We see 4 versions of him throughout this entire movie. The Defender one, the Supreme one, and the Sinister one. And they all bring the goal of bringing a little bit of perspective of what Strange is willing to do and what he can do in the near future to protect the multiverse. And that is something I like from this movie the most. If there's something we can count on Doctor Strange movies, as well as in other forms of media with Doctor Strange, is that the visuals and the production will be mind-blowing. Like, they're going out of their way to mind-blow us with some crazy effects, crazy visuals, production that is beyond our world, like immersing themselves into a comic book. There is a sequence in this movie involving Doctor Strange and America Chavez traveling through the multiverse, like flying away, like coming across other windows to another world, like basically going rampant. Like, that is something amazing from this movie, is to see other worlds and how you travel with those worlds. And that is just unbelievable. There is even a world in which they become cartoons, as well as another one in which they become living paint messes. Like, what the hell? And that is not a surprise, considering that this movie was directed by Sam Raimi, who is always thinking outside of the box with comic book things. He did movies like Spider-Man and The Wizard of Oz, although Wizard of Oz is actually Oz Great and Powerful, but you know the idea. As well as the Evil Dead movies. He likes to put the crazy on his movies, so he's really good at making visuals really mind-blowing. And his direction, as well as cameos by Cruz Campbell, are hilarious. And the production is actually pretty good. We not only get to see our world, as well as the aesthetics of the suit of Doctor Strange, but we also see other worlds, and the production helps to distinguish these worlds in different places. When we see other places like Another Earth, we see the differences and the changes. And it also has, in my opinion, something I want to do in the future, and that is like ball pizzas, like pizza in balls. That's unbelievable, and that's something to behold. Now, like I said before, I'm not going to spoil a lot of bit of this movie since I want you to see it yourself. There's cameos from other people in this movie, I'll say that, but not much else. But in many respects, I'll say this. In this movie, it's pretty much like that PG horror movie that most people either gonna love or hate. Well, I don't think this movie is going to set the world on fire, and there are some things like the writing and some characterizations that might be a little bit, infuriating for people, and there might be a lot of CG in this movie, I'll say that. But overall, I kind of like Doctor Strange's journey in this movie. It's not exactly mind-blowing, I'll say that, in terms of storytelling, but it's still mind-blowing in terms of effects. I still like the idea of Doctor Strange as a character going through this arc and going through different worlds, as well as helping other people, and just to basically be outside of the box, thinking how to help other people in other worlds. And to really stop this menace of the multiverse going out of whack with everything else. It's not exactly Spider-Man No Way Home or Endgame, but it's pretty decent. And if you want to see crazy visuals with some crazy mind-blowing spectacles with Doctor Strange blowing us away with visuals, maybe take a little look. It's not exactly the world's greatest movie, but it's still there in terms of good material comic book things, and that is something to behold. Hopefully I don't get delayed with my videos, and hopefully you get to see more about my reviews in the near future. There will be a lot of changes that will happen in the near future, so keep in mind there might be some aesthetic changes. But for now, I'm been Enrique, and I'll see you next time.